Hello all. I'd like to welcome you for the episode number 2 of our Fireside Chat series of IEEE Microwave Theory Technology Society. As you know, Fireside Chat is a unique digital platform launched by Digital Affairs team of our society, which allows the microwave engineers to know about the career trajectory, career journey, path, academic, and leadership journey of our distinguished microwave engineers and scientists. In episode number 1, we launched the Fireside Chat with Professor Nuno Borges Carvalho, President 2023 of our society, as the speaker. Today, we are very glad to have Professor Charlie Jackson, very popularly known as Charlie, as the speaker for the episode number 2 of Fireside.
Hi everyone, my name is Srinjoy Chatterjee. I am from the IEEE IEM MTT-S student branch chapter in the Kolkata section. Currently, I am serving as the chairperson for the digital affairs team in Region 10 MTTS, and I am very pleased and honored to have such a distinguished guest who was the president for our society and will be very auspicized to hear him speak and get to know some things from him and enrich our knowledge. We'll be starting with the questions. The first question would be, you have been actively involved in IEEE chapters, sections, conferences, and society activities in your career, having held various leadership positions such as IEEE President for MTTS, the Chair of IEEE Conferences Committee, Chair of the IEEE Online Forum on Climate Change and Technologies, now the Director for Division 4 Elect, and also the Chair for Region 6 Southern Area. What impact has your IEEE network and your personal and professional career had with your exposure as a technical and societal contributor in such a level? Could you please highlight some important moments and your experience in IEEE?
Well, there are a number of moments that stand out to me. One of which is years ago I was at a MTT AdCom meeting, and Roger Pollard listed out how MTT could digitize all the transactions and conference proceedings. And this was before Explore was open, before Explore existed. And since he laid it out, it was real easy to do. And I just entered and did it. And we digitized all the material. And we were supposed to invest in the membership, but we actually made a lot of money off of it. And then one day, IEEE Explore had been created, and they said, we're going to put your material in there. And then another thing is just by reaching out and meeting people when I've had technical problems, I had people to talk to actually solve them. And that helped me get things done at my job, which helped keep my career and job stable. So those are two big takeaways for what I've gotten with my IEEE involvement.
We can move on with our second question. Anamika, you can unmute it.
Hello, my name is Anamika A. Kamath. I am the chair of IEEE MTT-S Student Branch Chapter at Government Engineering College, Borden Hill, Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala section. My question to you, sir, is, in your opinion, how has the landscape of microwave and millimeter wave technologies evolved over the years? And what do you see as the most exciting developments on the horizon?
When I started in the field, there was a joke that millimeter waves are around the corner and always will be. In those days, a millimeter receiver was about this big. and it had a local oscillator, a mixer, maybe a horn or an input, and a post amp. And that didn't include things like the power supplies or any digital stuff. So that was around 1985. So everything was on gold bricks. It was really good to be able to test, and the accuracy was there. But they were very expensive. It took a long time to make them, and there was no way you could scale to have the number that are needed. And then you fast forward in around um, 2009 or so, the first millimeter wave chips became available. And that meant that something that was this big could now be packaged in something about this big. And that is a huge impact on what can be done. Those gold brick technologies are still used for many terahertz applications, and especially for space applications. But a lot of cell phones these days actually have millimeter wave transceivers in them, and that. So that was showing how the technology has really changed over the years. The impacts that are out there are really amazing for how many people's lives are touched by the different communication links, the car sensors, and things like that. The other big effect for microwaves is the phased arrays. When I entered the field, a phased array module was typically about so big, and now it fits like 10 or 20 fit on my fingernail here. And that impact is really impressive because the gain that a phased array antenna gives and the directivity means that less power can be used to do the communication that's needed. And the phased arrays impact is really a large impact. One of the reasons I got involved with microwaves, there were a number of them, was when I was in school, this guy Peter Glazier suggested that you could make space-based solar power satellites where you'd have a 1 kilometer square array in space, microwave the energy down to the Earth. And part of what led me through my career was to learn how to do that. And people are increasingly talking about doing that kind of microwave power collecting. We'll see if that actually happens.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. Reshma.
Okay. Hi all, I'm Reshma Ramesh, representing IEEE GC Barton Hill. I'm currently APS chair and also working with that team of Region 10 IEEE. I'm working as content writer. So my question to you is, we understand that you pursued a lifelong dream of designing and measuring the acoustic properties of woodwind musical instruments. Could you please share more about this passion work as well as how it has been intersecting with your professional work?
Well, when I was a kid, I read a book called Horn, Strings, and Harmony by Arthur Benaid, and he showed how you could build your own flute and clarinet. And he mentioned that transmission line theory was used. So over the years, I learned how to use transmission line theory. It has allowed me to design this thing here. This is a crumb horn. It's a double reed instrument, and it's famous because apparently King Henry VIII played one and other things. But that was designed using transmission theory. I didn't drill a hole and do tweaks back and forth. I did all that in a program. But going back, so I'm interested in designing musical instruments, and then one day I realized in the United States there was only one person who designed musical instruments in Elkhart, Indiana, and so I had to look around. But by that time, I had already learned that microwaves use transmission line theory. When I was in grad school, they had a thing where all the first-year grad students were research assistants and teaching assistants, and a professor came down because he needed someone to help run the optics lab that he had. And he said, "Does anybody know what electron double nuclear resonance is?" And I had no idea what that was. "Does anyone know what electron spin resonance is?" I have no idea. But then he said, "Does anybody know what waveguide is?" And I said, "Yes, I know. It's a transmission line." So I got hired and I did the lab. The next year, it's time for students to start looking for a thesis advisor. And one of the thesis advisors came down and basically said, "Does anybody know what electron double nuclear resonance is?" And I said, I know. So I got hired and I did that kind of work. Electron spin resonance uses a lot of waveguide and microwave technology. And I had to design my own cavities and things like that. So that means that my interest in the musical acoustics led to what I was doing. The other thing that's been good about that, though, is that when I looked at different things going on, I learned about 6-port network analyzers, which is a really interesting way to do vector network analyzers. And some people actually have put these on chips, which to me is amazing. Let's see. But going on with that, because I learned how to do that when I had cancer and I had a major operation, and I'm really good now. It's been over 20 years since my cancer. I had some time on my hands, and I realized that I could do acoustic time domain reflectometry to actually measure the acoustical properties of things. And right now I'm actually designing transmission line acoustic filters using the same equations you use to design a waveguide filter using Matai, Young, and Jones. And I'm developing my own test set to measure the insertion loss of them. So anyway, what got me started was really just one step at a time. If you'd asked me that I'd be a microwave engineer when I was in high school, I would have said I have no idea. But each step took me into an area that I found interesting and rewarding, and has led me to be where I am today. Hope that answered the question.
Thank you so much, sir.
We'll move on to the next question, Satyam.
Okay. Hello everyone. I am Satyam Chaudhary. I am from IEEE MTT-S Student Branch Chapter. I am serving as a chairperson of that chapter, and I am also connected to the DAT team as I am the multimedia and graphics chair of the team. So, uh, and sir, it's very nice to meet you, sir. I have been waiting for this meeting for a very long period, sir. So, starting off with my question, sir, can you please share a bit about your upbringing, your early education, and career trajectory that led you to pursue your career in IEEE and microwave theory and technology, and that led to you becoming the president of the same chapter?
Okay. So when I was a kid, I remember when my mother took me to the election, the ballot for the election where John F. Kennedy got elected. Somebody walked up to me, and I was very short, and they looked down at me and they said, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I'm going to be a scientist and wear a lab coat." So I knew I wanted to go into science at a very early age. I've rarely worn a lab coat, so I must say that was there. But for me, it's always been one step at a time. For instance, I described why I ended up doing microwaves. But when I first got out of school, I was they twisted my arm and I became the MTT chapter chair for for Coastal Los Angeles section. and I did that, and it was very interesting. I went to the microwave symposium, the International Microwave Symposium, because I needed to buy a gun oscillator. And I went to it. I snuck into some of the talks, which were very interesting. And if somebody had told me that in 15 years I would be chairing that conference, I would have laughed at them. So again, I've just gone one step at a time. And I described how I listened to Roger Pollard talk about how we could digitize things. Because of that, I got elected onto ADCOM, and I served there. And if when I became a chapter chair, somebody had said to me, "Oh, you're going to be president of MTT someday," I would have laughed at him. So for me, again, I tend to choose intermediate goals that are achievable, and shoot for them. Because I was MTT president, and because I had chaired a major conference, the Microwave Symposium, I've been involved with IEEE Conference Committee for many years. And recently, in the past 2 years, I've been chair of the IEEE Conference Committee. Because of my interest in serving at the IEEE board level, I'm Division 4 Director-elect right now. And again, if somebody had said I'd be a division director years ago, I would have been surprised. But I've always had both feet in, or 1 foot in TAB, technical activities, and 1 foot in member of geographic area. Because I was a chapter chair, I got involved with my section, and eventually I became section chair. And actually, over 40 years, I've been section chair 2 times. But being able to serve and support the section to help the members in my area has been a big thing. And participating in the region has, again, multiplied what I can do. By being a volunteer in IEEE, I'm supporting over 400,000 members worldwide. In my section, I'm supporting 10,000 members, 1,000 members, and in MTT, I'm supporting 10,000 members. Getting involved with a local soccer club, I'm involved with an orchid club and a recorder club, and I've been president of those clubs off and on. There I only are affecting maybe 50 to 100 people. So this is one aspect that IEEE gives me, where I can have a much bigger footprint for my volunteerism. I have some rules on being a volunteer. If you go to my LinkedIn, I think you can find it. But one of the rules is find out what you like to do and volunteer to do that, because you want it to be fun.
Yes.
And that one time I had to be treasurer because I wanted to be chair of the conference, and I hate balancing my checkbook. I hated being a treasurer. So that was one of the times where I did something I didn't want to do, but I needed to do to get to where I wanted to go. Now, I know people who like balancing their checkbook, and those are the kind of people who should volunteer to be a treasurer. I know people who are really good with social media. Those are the people who should do publicity. So again, one of my rules is find out what you like to do and volunteer to do that. There's one other rule, is to learn to say no, because the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And if you volunteer to do too much and don't deliver, it's a problem. But one of the ways to say no is, if you're doing one thing and somebody says do another, just remind them you can't do both. And I'm doing a good job on what I'm doing now. Do you want to take the risk that I'll mess up the next thing? So again, anyway, volunteering for me has been tied up with what you're asking about, and shows what all you can accomplish.
Thank you, sir. That was very insightful.
We'll move on to the next question, Anamika.
Yes. So my question to you is, as someone who has overcome significant health challenges, how has your perspective on life and work evolved? And how do you approach challenges and setbacks?
Well, as I mentioned, in 2002, I found out that I had bladder cancer. I had a major operation. They removed my bladder, took my small intestine, did origami, and stapled it in. And I'm very lucky the operation was a success. Um, well, going into that, um, I realized that there was a 2% chance or something like that of a failure. When you're actually faced with it, it seems much bigger. But it's always that operation reminded me it's always important to stop and smell the roses, so to speak. Always to take time off and try to enjoy what you're doing or um, be there in the moment and to stop putting things off and putting them off. Um, so the other thing is that after my operation, um, I had trouble walking just because I had no energy. So the first day I was home, I walked out to the sidewalk and I stopped and went back in. The next day, I walked down a little further. And then over the next months, I got so I could walk 2 or 3 miles at a time. But each day, I had to just work on getting better on it. It turns out years ago, I broke my shoulder skiing, and I had a similar thing where I had to do physical therapy and keep going up. But in a way, what I described there for physical things is when I'm on a project trying to solve something, trying to make my data work, I have to sit down and go back to the books and read about what has to be done, contact other people. For the measuring of the acoustical properties, I had an opportunity to ask a number of experts in the field how to do it and learned how to actually apply the acoustical time domain reflectometry. But each day I had to go and try to get it to work better and find different ways to make it go better. So um, for me, solving problems is really the thing I love doing, whether it's trying to make my Arduino right now communicate with the digital chip so I can sweep frequencies, or whether it's trying to figure out how to um, bring together people for the area meeting, how to get the advertisements to work, for the online forum, how to reach out to people so that we can get as many people to not live, but listen to it. So um, again, just having to keep banging my head against the wall to try to get to where I want to go.
Thank you, sir.
So finally, but a very important question for all of us, especially the youngsters. What is your advice to the youngsters like us to become the future Charles M. Jackson, a very successful engineer, passionate leader, and a legend of the field?
Well, for me, the most important thing I would say is find out what you like to do, find out what interests you. Um, One joke is if you find a job that you like doing, you never work a day in your life because you're doing it because you enjoy it. You can't always find things that you enjoy all the time, but if you can get a mix, like at least 20% is what you enjoy and care about, and the other 80% is what you do to keep your job, that's one part of the philosophy. Um, there's a book, Strength Finders 2.0, that I recommend to people, and the philosophy of the book is find out what you're good at and get better at it. Because if you become the best at something, then people will see you as a valuable person on their team. So Strength Finders 2.0 gives you a little test and it finds out what you like to do. When I took it, it said I have a passion for learning and I should write papers, I should do research, I should go to conferences, and I should get involved in a professional society. Well, I'd already done that. But again, the book sort of gives you paths to do to find out what you're good at. And again, um, focusing on what you're good at is a good thing to do. The other thing for me is I really could be accused of having too low a sight, too low a horizon. But by making sure I get to each hill along the way, I've been able to go further and further. And I would give the example again that the first time I went to the International Microwave Symposium, if somebody had told me in 15 years I'd be chairing it, I would have laughed. The other side of that is if I had wanted to and I'd set my sights to it, I'm not sure that I would have gotten there. Um, so I guess the other way to put it is a lot of times it's the journey itself, not where you're going, but the journey that you do. Um, and then the one other thing is, in many times, just showing up is the important thing. Just showing up, doing your job. Um, and that makes a difference. Too many times people uh, don't really just show up. And especially for being a volunteer, just showing up is a big thing. Um, Another comment I'd make is that volunteering with IEEE teaches you how to be a volunteer. During your life, you may want to volunteer and do other things. You may have a family and decide to become a soccer parent where you drive kids around. But because of what you've learned here, you can apply that. Um, and then the other thing is when you deal with volunteers, you have to learn how to make them understand why they're doing it, why there's a benefit. Someday you'll probably work for somebody who simply says, I'm your boss, you do this or else. Well, that doesn't make happy employees. And many times you'll be working on a team and you won't be the boss of those people on the team, but you'll need to learn how to motivate them, explain to them why it's there. So those are just a number of different aspects of how I have been able to get where I wanted. Uh, and again, it was one step at a time. It's a long journey, but one step at a time.
So, to be honest, being a person born after the era of your presidential career, I have to say that you inspire us a lot. Even at this age, the amount of volunteer work you put in is almost equal to four of us added, multiplied by five or something. So, it was really great having you in this session, and we are already finished with our questions. We hope to see you soon in the offline version of this that we are planning ahead, and let's hope for the best.
Okay. Well, I hope you will join me for the online forum later on this year and the online forum on climate change technologies.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. It was a great experience. Thank you, sir, for being here and taking the time to inspire more youngsters like us
Yep.
to choose the field and do some volunteering.
So, what part, how many years have you had at university, each of you?
So I'm about to graduate. So like I have finished everything. 4
Okay.
years. My bachelor's is just finished right now. So I am like officially an engineer.
Okay, that's great.
Uh, Satyam, Anamika, and Reshma, they are all in their pre-final year right now. So next year they will also become engineers.
And let me show you one silly joke. See, this is a wave. This is a microwave. I'm a microwave engineer. I find that's useful when people say, um, what's your job? If you say you're an engineer, they sort of say, oh, too bad. uh, but if I say that, they laugh and then we move on anyway.
So I guess it's the same around the globe.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me join you all. It's been interesting, and we'll see how it turns out.